For months now, there's been speculation about an early election, with some even predicting it be happening in February or March. But as we head into the new year, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is yet to call one. So why the delay? In today's video, we'll break down 5 key reasons why Albanese is holding off on calling an early election, what both parties are doing in preparation, and some likely election dates. Before we go into this, it's worth exploring how the election process works. In simple terms, the federal election must be held within 3 years of the last election, but it can be called earlier if the government chooses. The House of Representatives expires on July the 29th this year, while the Senate expires at a similar time frame, meaning the election will include both the House and Senate. When the Prime Minister requests the dissolution of Parliament and is granted by the Governor-General through what is called the issuing of the writs, the process begins, and the election campaign lasts between 33 to a maximum of 68 days. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, despite claims of an early election, is unlikely to call an election until March, and here we've gathered 5 reasons for why this is. The first and likely biggest reason is political viability, with the government eyeing up more favourable timing to call the election. The Albanese administration understands that inflation, while approaching the RBA target range of 2 to 3%, is still at a level that has left the RBA being more dovish in regards to cutting the rate. If the Reserve Bank cuts interest rates today, it would be good news for Labor, as a lower interest rate would relieve cost of living pressures on households and benefit the economy as it begins to grow again. Although the RBA is an autonomous central bank, the Albanese government will attempt to take credit for the cost of living relief in conjunction with its own fiscal policy decisions, which would be crucial in securing marginal voters. Another major reason holding off Albanese is the WA state election. Western Australia, being the nation's most wealthiest and influential state, means holding a federal election before that state's election could be risky, with the federal party facing the risk of legislating unpopular policies likely to be opposed by WA voters. And there's also the added potential for voter fatigue if elections are called at the same time. In addition, Albanese is also likely using the Western Australian election to observe the trend and popularity of Labor, giving them a more informed picture before he heads into the federal election. The third reason is that Albanese's government is keen to implement its legislative agenda and reforms. An early election could distract from completing key policy initiatives and undermining long-term objectives. If Albanese is able to push for more legislative changes before the last sitting days and promote pre-election commitments, he could cut down on the coalition's gains in the opinion polls, leaving Labor in a more favourable position to form government. Another reason is that the current government was elected with a clear mandate. Finishing the full term could reinforce that mandate and demonstrate a commitment to democratic continuity, rather than opportunistic electoral timing. The last reason being that by staying on course until the scheduled election, the government avoids the risks and uncertainties that come with a snap poll, such as market volatility or shifts in public sentiment during the campaign. With all this in mind, by sticking with his agenda and waiting for more favourable conditions, he may be able to swing back with more support and recover lost ground that's been claimed by the coalition in the opinion polls. If Albanese is able to pace out both pre-election and election campaigns, the government will likely see a slightly more positive perception as voters aren't pressured or rushed into an election, which could backfire for Albanese, as we've seen in the UK elections last year for Rishi Sunak. As for both parties' pre-campaign bids, both have published a variety of statements and pushed their key campaign slogans. The Liberals under Peter Dutton emphasised strong leadership and stability under the Liberals, a crackdown on anti-Semitism, and getting the nation so-called back on track. As for Labor, Albanese has reiterated his statements at venues such as the National Press Club, urging voters that Labor is the only party able to lead the country, get employment down, and ensure employment opportunities for Australians. While both parties claim to be friends of the working class, Labor has shifted more focus on its renewable plan, while the coalition seeks to support small business, which it believes to be crushed under the Labor government. As for a date for the federal election, the ramping up of pre-election campaigns and a change in the political atmosphere suggests an election between April and May of this year as it's fast approaching. This gives time for both Labor to recover its losses in popularity, while for the Liberals more time to substantiate policies and exploit any alleged failures of the Albanese government. With this all being said, as of today, Thought Digest Media has projected two likely dates that the 2025 federal election will be held on. The first is on April the 5th, with an announcement likely to be made between March the 7th to the 9th as the WA election comes to conclusion. This scenario assumes a worsening in Labor's performance and a lack of optimal conditions such as an RBA rate cut. The other is Saturday the 3rd of May, with this being more likely if Labor performs okay and the government overall experiences more favourable political conditions over the next few months. But regardless, this could go either way if Labor decides to cut its losses immediately and hold an election early. But this is still remain to be seen. Regardless of when the federal election is to be held, one thing is for certain, and that's it will be an election like no other, with this year likely to receive the largest registration of independents and young candidates, and social media playing a greater role than traditional print and TV. So, from here on out, it's all hands on deck, as we try to cover the stories you need to hear from all sides of politics this election. Thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed our content, consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you can keep in the loop regarding the important news stories from the world and around Australia. We're also pleased to announce our release of the 5th edition of the Snapshots newsletter. This edition highlights significant global headlines, as well as major news from Australia and beyond. You can access it down below in the link provided for free. Lastly, I'd like to thank our regular supporters and the team for making this video possible. Your support is crucial, and if you'd like to help, consider buying us a coffee, our merchandise, or purchasing a premium membership. Your support would be crucial for the expansion of our platform, and any contributions will be invested into our content, our equipment, and covering other operational expenses. Once again, I'm Heath Clark, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.